Adobe MAX 2017, welcome to Dell FMC campus. Right over here, we've got our very own Mr. Rod Harlan going to be doing a free 1-hour hands-on session on our Dell Precision laptops here. We've got all our beautiful, beautiful monitors and canvas on the perimeter there. You can ask all our experts all about the products that we have here at the Dell FMC campus. But most importantly, our hands-on session, free classes, right over here. We got Mr. Rod Harlan doing some Photoshop TNT, jam-packed full of like video in Photoshop and effects in Photoshop, mostly some video. And I just have to say, Photoshop TNT, pow!
All right. Hey, my name is Rod Harlan. Those of you watching us live streaming, thanks for joining in. Again, here at Adobe MAX at the Dell FMC campus, we're going to be really focusing in Photoshop on actually bringing in video files, working with those, taking time-lapse still images, converting those into video files, and then some cool effects. I got a really cool one at the very end. We're actually going to do something that most people don't think can actually be done in Photoshop, and we're going to show you how to do that. For those of you that are here on the workstations, here on the booth, if you'll go ahead and launch Photoshop for me, if you haven't already gone ahead and done that. And what you want to do is once you launch it, I have lost my mouse control. Uh-oh. I lost my mouse control. What do we do? Let's try that again. We have to reboot? Yeah. All right, we'll reboot real quick. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to wait just a second. Yep. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up one of my files. You can either go open here on the dashboard or go under File menu to open. And you want to look, you're going to look for on the desktop. If you click Desktop, go to my name, Rod Harlan, Adobe MAX FMC. You'll see a folder there. And in there you'll see a bunch of these little files. The first one we're going to open very, very simple. We're going to open up this little one called Rose. If you'll just double click on that, you get a nice rose. I'm going to hit the space bar here and we're just going to play this. And we see we just have a very small, simple video file. I want to explain what you can and can't do with video inside of Photoshop, or better yet, what you're going to do the first time around, and then you're going to be like, oh, that doesn't look good. That's not what I wanted. And I'm going to show you how to fix that. So here we go. Let's just go. I'm going to go just somewhere in here. It doesn't matter. Just anywhere you want to move your little timeline marker. And I'm going to go up to the filters. And let's go to Filter Gallery. That's always a fun one, Filter Gallery. A lot of these little fun ones, you can kind of see what it adds to it. I'm going to choose a nice ugly one like plastic wrap to really make my point here. And I'm going to hit OK. Now you're going to say, OK, Rod, I get what we've done. Now here's the problem. As soon as I hit play, oh, where'd it go? Right? We applied that entire effect to just one frame. That one frame right there, right? Horrible. That's not what we want. We want to apply it to the whole video. If we had to go, man, and do this frame by frame, we'd be here forever. Horrible. So we don't want to do that. So how do we fix that? Super simple. Over here on your layer palette, if you will right click where it says layer 1, and you will say convert to smart object. All right, convert to smart object. Now, if I go back to filter gallery, choose something that I want, whatever. I'll keep with the same horrible plastic wrap. You guys please choose something prettier. But you'll see that what it does is it now applies it to the whole video. That is the key to working with effects and doing stuff with video inside of Photoshop. Convert it to a smart object. And that way you don't have to worry about doing it frame by frame. It'll do it to the whole thing. So that is a huge, huge part. And it's such a simple little trick, but honestly, I see so many people still who just don't know that this is there. This is all you need to do. Now, the beauty of something like filter gallery or any of the filters inside of Photoshop here, this is non-destructive, right? We can turn this on and off anytime that we want. So I can just click that little eye right there, filter gallery is off, filter gallery is on. I say, oh my gosh, I don't want that horrible plastic wrap. I want something like a dry brush or a neon glow. Well, that's horrible. Let's do a watercolor, a little bit better. You can change your settings. We're going to look at this a little bit more here in a minute, but you can easily go back and make your changes, all right? Completely non-destructive. All I really wanted you to learn from this was how to bring in a video clip, convert it to a smart object, apply effects to the whole thing. Have I lost anybody? You all are brilliant. That's awesome. All right, let's get away from that. Let's go ahead and we'll go File menu to Open. Let's do something a little bit more. Let's go ahead and grab this one called Rush 1. Rush 1. It's going to bring up, in this case, pixel aspect ratio corrections for preview purposes only. Turn it off for maximum image rate. This is because a lot of times you're going to bring in different kind of codecs, different kind of formats. People say, well, what can Photoshop see? What kind of video clips can Photoshop work with? It has nothing to do with Photoshop, believe it or not. It has to do with your machine. So whether you're on a Mac or a PC, whatever you have loaded, whatever codecs you have loaded, that's what it'll be able to see and work with those files, okay? And then whatever aspect ratio they are, it'll work with those too. So here we are, we have a nice little time lapse. And let's do the same thing here. This is a little bit more thing, but let's see how we can actually now take this. What do we do if we want to apply an effect to the full video? What do we do? Smart object, right click, convert to smart object. Let's go back to filter gallery. Let's choose something, I don't know, maybe a dry brush. Look at that. Gives it a much nicer look. You can kind of give it that little bit of that kind of watercolory. Sometimes people are always saying, man, Rod, I got this idea for this animation. What I want to do is I want to go into After Effects, and I'm going to shoot all this in video, and then we're going to rotoscope some stuff, and then I'm going to add some of this extra plugin that I'm going to have to buy. It's like $200. And I was like, whoa. Honestly, just take your video into Photoshop. Honestly, you'll probably be able to get the look and effect that you want right here inside of something like Filter Gallery, okay? So you can kind of see that you can kind of play with these. I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna hit the little space bar. It's take a little bit to render, and now you're gonna say, what is this green line down here on the timeline? What is that? What am I getting? What that's doing is that is actually rendering this into RAM. So what we're doing is we're rendering. So right now, it's not playing at full frames per second. There's a tiny little thing down here in red. It'll tell you what your frames per second is. Right now we're doing just under 7 frames a second. So obviously not real time, right? So it's rendering it into RAM. And obviously Filter Gallery is a really strong, heavy type of effect. It takes a while to kind of process, even on large, just still images. But once it renders that green line, if you go back and you hit the space bar and hit the marquee, the timeline marquee and have it move forward, you'll see that it'll play that in real time. And again, super simple, double click on the filter gallery. Let's change it up. Let's go to, let me see something a little more. Cutout. Cutout gives it that kind of, some people want a little bit more of a harsh cartoon type of effect. This is one that you can absolutely do with. You can also raise your levels to get a little more detail. So you see the number of levels, I'm at 4. I'm not seeing much of the buildings in the back. I bring it up to like a 7 or an 8, and I'm starting to get that now. So I'm getting a lot more diversity. The edge simplicity will show you how much more detail. If you're far to the right there at a higher number, less. If you bring it off to the far left to a lower number, a lot more of your detail, right? Click OK. Again, kind of render that into RAM. So again, we started with real time-lapse video, right? We started with a real video file, and we're creating these neat little effects that you can apply to the full thing. Now, again, turn them off. You still got your regular video. In fact, that's what I'm going to do next. Let's go ahead and make sure you turn off there on Filter Gallery. Turn off the eyeball. Let's go ahead and turn off the eyeball. Those of you just coming in, go ahead and grab a seat. You can catch up. We'll go to another file here in just a minute, so come on in. So we've turned off the Filter Gallery. I actually want to go down here. If you look down at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see the little tooltip. And it'll show you where you can add or create or adjustment layers, right? So it's the adjustment layer panel down at the bottom of your layer palette. So go ahead and choose that, and let's choose something like, let's go with a black and white. Let's add a black and white adjustment layer. All right, so now we've added a nice black and white. Now, some people will go into video and they want to convert color to black and white, and they'll desaturate the whole video clip. It's not really the best way. Honestly, you desaturate it, you don't really have other choices. By going with a black and white adjustment layer, a couple things. First, it's hovering above your video, so if you turn off the adjustment layer, you still got the full color underneath. But not only that, we can go ahead and move the reds and the yellows that are in the color version of the video that's before, and watch what it does to our black and white. It accents. So look at those reds. I can bring them up or take them down. Same with the yellows. Look at that. Make the spot a little bit more on the road, or bring it back. Play around with that for a second. You'll see what you can do, how you can control. The blues will darken. So if you got a little noise up in the sky, you're like, oh my gosh, there's a little noise up there. I don't like that in my black and white. Bring down your blues. Nice dark sky. So you see there how you can really have custom control of your black and white to really get the black and white that you want. Have the right saturation, all that kind of good stuff. No. There we go. All right. So let me hit play. Notice how it's playing this real fast. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, adjustment layers, things like that. Doesn't take any rendering time. I'm about to go to something really, really neat, so I want to make sure I haven't lost anybody. Is anybody lost in the audience right now? Everybody kind of caught up? All right. Got some head nods? All right. I'm going to go to something kind of cool. We are going to actually paint on this layer mask. This is a little bit more advanced tip. So here's the layer mask over here. We're going to paint on that. Why are we going to do that? What we're actually going to do, you see that's a white layer mask? I'm actually going to grab the black foreground color. I'm going to grab a brush. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do first, and I'm going to paint on that. What that's going to do is that's actually going to take and it's going to punch through the white layer mask, revealing the color underneath. So that's how I can do kind of selective coloring, and it's really, really a cool technique. So let's go over here. Let's grab a brush. My brush tool. That is a massive, whoever used this last, that is the world's largest brush I have ever seen. So if you use your left and right bracket keys, your left bracket key makes your brush smaller, right bracket makes it bigger. So let's go down. And here's what I want you to do. Make sure you got black selected as your foreground color over here. And what we're going to do is paint right on the road. Look at that. Look at that. Huh? Make your brush a little bit smaller. We're going to do this a couple times with a couple different files here in a minute. But I just want to show you this technique, nice and simple. We'll get a little bit more specific with it in some later clips. But now watch this. How cool is that, right? Pretty cool. Adding just selective color. Did I lose anybody? Maybe a little bit? All right, that's good. So all you're doing again is you're grabbing the brush. You can see over here in my layer palette, look on my white layer mask. I have painted that black area right there. If I want to do the same on this road over here, I would make my again, I would make my brush a little bit smaller, and I would just paint, and it would highlight just those colors. Really cool technique. You can use it a lot. Now here's the bonus. Let's turn our filter gallery back on. We had it off. Now we've got that same thing. Look what we've done. We've actually gone through and we've applied now multiple things, and all of these can be changed at any time. So here's the cool secret. So you can set something like this up as there's maybe a certain look, a certain design, and you're going to want to be doing this to logos, video logos, animated logos, lower third, something along those lines. Excuse me. And so you set this up almost as a template, right? Because you can kind of then keep all of these layers just as they are. If you were to go right now and say File and then Save As, what you're actually saving this as is as a PSD, right? So you're saving this as a full regular Photoshop PSD, okay? You're not exporting the video. That's what you're not doing. You're saving this as a PSD. So remember that for a sec. To export, you go all the way down. Sorry, go back up to where it says Export and drag down to where it says Render Video. This is where you will have your settings to actually make your video clip, to actually go ahead and render this out as a video clip. Again, I get the question all the time, you know, what formats are available. It's whatever is already on your system. Photoshop isn't putting anything on there. It's whatever your system can already play. So if you are playing AVIs, you can save it as an AVI. If you're playing MP3, if you're playing MP4s, if you're on a Mac, you can do that, so on and so forth. Lots of presets if you want to go out strictly say YouTube or Vimeo or something like that. You can also create your own presets and save those out. But the beauty of something like this, when you set it up like this, is that you can just kind of switch out the video, or you can copy and paste these, the filter gallery, the smart layers, the adjustment. You can just kind of put in another video, copy and paste the things on it, and then you've got all those same effects and that same look already saved there. So you can do it in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. All right, let me take any questions real quick. Any questions on the stuff that we've done? Those of you that are just coming in, don't worry, we're going to go to a new project here in just a second. But anybody, any questions, anything? So the question is, from the audience, is can you keyframe this? The answer is yes, you can keyframe, but you don't have motion tracking. So there's no motion tracking in this kind of thing. So let's pull this up and let's look at that real quick. I'm gonna pull up my timeline so you can kind of see a little better. And you don't have the full set like you have in Premiere or After Effects. You don't have that. So transform, opacity, style, those are your main things. If you go up to, and also you're inside of the, right now we're inside of the video group. I'm gonna do some stuff a little later. I'm gonna pull things outside of the video group, so it's just more stacked like regular Photoshop layers, and you get some little differences there too. So we'll go over that. But the answer is yeah. You see the little stopwatch there, you can go ahead and you know, wherever you're at, set your keyframe, do whatever you're gonna do, move forward, set another keyframe, so on and so forth. So the answer is yes. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead. We're gonna I'm gonna do one more thing because I want to show. I'm gonna do the same thing for those that just came in. Let me go ahead and go to the File menu. Let's go down to Open. Let's go to Rush. This may explain even a little bit about the tracking versus not. Hit OK if you get the pixel aspect ratio thing. Same kind of idea of what we have talked about in terms of things that you can do to this, right? So if you want to apply a filter, then you have to convert it to a smart object. If you're not applying a filter, you can leave it the way that it is, and all you actually need to do is just add an adjustment layer. I'm gonna do something different on this one, just to be different. I'm gonna add a hue and saturation adjustment layer. I do wanna show this as a technique because it's one of those things that I think everybody knows, but then I meet people who don't know this. instead of moving around the hue sliders and trying to find underneath here, like, well, do I want to adjust my reds or my yellows? If you just want to tint the whole clip, give it a certain type of a tint, like a, you know, just any kind of tint that you want to color it. If you'll hit the colorize button down at the bottom and then move just your hue slider, you can get any kind of overall tint that you're kind of looking for, right? And a lot of times you'll see that a lot in a lot of video things. They have maybe more of a blue hue or something to kind of augment, like it's cold, or you know, you're trying to convey something in your story. So you can kind of match that too. It's kind of a nice way to match that. But again, one of the things I want to give you guys, more from an idea of, it's what we've already learned about, but from an idea of you want to sell this to a client, right? So if you go out, DSLR, big video camera, whatever you've got, and you shoot your client's building, right? And they want to kind of do some kind of video opening for an annual report, or you know, just some other kind of maybe a training video that they're going to use in-house, but you kind of want to highlight, and they have like a nice sign somewhere, whether it's a billboard on the side of the road, or whether it's downtown somewhere, or even if it's just out in front of their building. They got a nice sign, it's lit up. Something you can do is go out and shoot the video, maybe give it a tint like this, and then use the same trick that we were just doing. Let's say that LG is our client. Just highlight just their sign in full color, right? I'll do another one over here. I know it's Coca-Cola. You can kind of highlight some of these over here. You can kind of spot highlight just what you want, right? So let me kind of zip through this, and you'll kind of see how that's now in just that part is in full color. I'll tell you where I first saw this, believe it or not. I was watching SNL, and there was a time, this is years ago, this is many, many years ago, they would go, before they go to break, they'd show some Times Square footage or something like that, and the commercial that you were getting ready to see right afterward, let's say it was like a Codec commercial or something for a new camera, they would literally come in here and say like this little Codec right here. Let me go in there. In fact, let me go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. They would highlight, you know, just that sign or just that word, right? I'm going to do the whole thing because I'm going to show you a problem with this. And this is what the question was a second ago. You see how I've gone also over the edge, right? I missed it. My brush was a little too big. If you will just switch from painting with black to painting with white, you actually can bring that back in, fix your mistake, nice and clean, right? So that looks great, and it's awesome, but again, there's no motion tracking. So watch what happens. Now this is going real fast, so it doesn't really matter, but you see how that a truck is in front of it, and it covers it up? Let's go see if we can find another big truck. But any kind of trucks or anything like that that kind of covers that area, that's going to be colored too, okay? This is going real fast. That's why time-lapse works really, really nice. But that's the problem. You don't have motion tracking. You don't have any kind of rotoscoping. You don't have that. You literally just have, I punched a hole through the paper so I can see down, bring the color up from below. Everybody got that? All right. We're going to switch to something completely different. I'm going to go ahead and close these out. If you guys want to close these out, it'll free up a little bit of your RAM. You can just go ahead and close out. What we're going to do now, and this is something you got to listen to me. You got to do it because I've done this before, and there is a difference. So I'm going to ask you to open a file. You have to open it, file menu to open. Do not do open here. I will show you why it doesn't work afterward. But do not do open from the dashboard. Do file menu to open. And then I've got this thing called Charlotte Time-Lapse Project. Double click on that. Now, let's say that you've gone out and you've shot stuff with your DSLR camera. Great. And you've got this whole bunch of images. If you see here, this is a time lapse, a bunch of stills. They're numbered, and they go all the way down. And you can see that we're shooting basically from daylight all the way into dark, right? All the way into nighttime. If you tried to select all these and open them up all at once, you know, there's a good chance you might crash your machine. You don't have enough RAM, especially if they're really large files. You're opening up 120, 150, 250 files. It's a lot, right? So it can really hurt you. The trick is this. You go to just select the very first image, and then you click the little button down here called Image Sequence. Put a checkbox right there, and hit Open. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask you, man, what is your frame rate? Why is it asking you this? Now we have a whole choice. Like not only do we have things that are already pre-built, but there's a custom thing at the bottom so you can put in whatever you want, right? But why is it asking this? Because depending on what frame rate we choose, that's going to decide how long or how short our clip is going to end up being, right? But a lot of times that doesn't even matter because you're having to put this into another project you're slipping this into, right? So if you're doing like some kind of 24 frames per second video versus say 30 frames per second, then you need to go ahead and choose 24 so you can match that up in Premiere, so on and so forth. So let's just go ahead and choose 23.976. That is the correct version of 24 frames. And let's choose that, hit OK, and you'll see how it builds a video in one fell quick swoop. If you've been doing this another way, and I know a lot of people have, stop, because this is so much faster. So much faster. And it's just so easy to do, right? So there's our whole video. That is how easy it is to bring in your time lapse, convert it to video. Now you could file menu, go down to export, go down to render video, choose whatever you want, export it out, you're good to go, all right? Super simple, haven't lost anybody. Again, a great way to make some money off of a client because this looks really spectacular, but it's not something that takes you a lot of money. By the way, I'm a big believer, don't ever charge by the hour, charge by the project. The fact that you spend thousands of dollars to come to Adobe MAX to learn all these tricks, you should not get penalized for being faster, better, smarter, right? So these are things that you keep for yourself, and yes, charge by the project. So again, the same thing here. This first thing came to me when I first had a client who was like, hey, listen, Rod, we're an architecture firm. We need you to, kind of shoot some video, and then we need to highlight that we're gonna be kind of doing some changes to the video. Now, in that particular case, this is again a few years ago, we ended up doing a lot of other like VR, I mean, not VR as in what you have nowadays in VRs, but back then, kind of animated virtual stuff that we were adding some segments to the building to kind of show, this is what it's gonna look like afterward. But the first part of the video, we had to find a way to highlight it, right? And again, I did that same simple, silly trick. What I did was, again, do an adjustment layer, whatever you want. In this case, say a black and white. I'm gonna choose a little yellow filter, make things kind of pop a little bit more. Let me move in a little bit more so you can kind of see what I'm gonna do. You see I've got some graininess up there. So again, I'm gonna dial that in with the blues, bring that down a little bit more so I get rid of some of that noise. And then all I did, again, grab that brush. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I'm just telling you, man, this has actually made me some pretty good money over the years. All right, let's make sure you're targeting your black and white layer mask. Grab my brush. And I really just highlighted the building. Oh, make sure you're painting with black. I highlighted the building. And it was just a nice little quick intro that just played really well. I'll bring it from the beginning here, hold on. And it just kind of, it's a quick way to do something. Again, the fact that it takes me 30 seconds to do it doesn't mean I'm charging them for 30 seconds worth of work. I'm not. I'm very much not. So that's how, I just want to show you how we're tying things together. Now, the next trick I'm going to show you is also going to be with time-lapse. So if you missed that on the time-lapse, I'm going to show you to you again, and we're going to do it with much bigger files. But let me show you, and you can just watch me. You don't have to do this yourself. I want to show you the problem. And this is the thing, when you go back home and you try to do this yourself, you're going to do one thing, and you're going to think, uh-oh, I can't make it work the way Rod did when I was sitting there. Why is that? Here's the kicker. I'm going to close this out again. You don't have to do this. You can just watch me up here. If you click the Open button from the dashboard and you select that first file, look what's missing. Right here. My image sequence checkbox. It's not there. The File menu open and the Open dashboard are not equal. They are not the same. So this is missing that image sequence. So the only way that you can get that is File menu to open or to use Control-O, that will also work, the keyboard shortcut, to get it, and then boom, there it is, image sequence. See that right there? And that'll work. But it's not, if you click the open from the dashboard, it's not there. It's one of those things. Try to remember that, write that down, because everybody, honestly, I get people on Twitter like, Rod, what was that thing you showed? Because now I can't do it. And I always go, file menu to open, or did you do open from the dashboard? All right. Let's go ahead then. Go ahead and do file menu to open. We're going to go to a different folder, okay? So go back one into that thing where you can see all these little folders. There's one called Havasu Falls. Much bigger files in this one. Select the first one. Hit image sequence. Let's open this up. And then I'll explain a little bit about our challenges. Oh, let's go ahead and choose that same 23.976. Explain some challenges that we have with this, okay? First, let me show you these sizes, right? So I'm going to go under the image menu. I'm just going to go down to image size to show you that technically these are bigger than 4K files, okay? This is 4288 by 2848. So this, nowadays, obviously, we got all these DSLRs that can shoot 24 megapixel, 28 megapixel. We can shoot some really large files, and that's great. And so that means you can actually create for Adobe stock, if you want to sell some of your footage, you can go out there, shoot video, shoot time-lapse, shoot stills, convert it to video, make it into 4K footage, and now you're selling 4K footage. That's awesome, but you're only selling now one clip. What I want to show you is how you can go ahead and not only fix, instead of fixing these individually, say in like Lightroom, every single frame, I'm going to show you how you can kind of adjust everything all at once. And then I'm going to show you how we can go ahead and export these out at some different sizes with some different focuses so that you can get multiple clips from a single outing of going on and shooting one-time time-lapse. So that's where we're going. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. The first thing I want to do is, and it looks much darker on my screen up here than you can see it up on the projector monitor that we have up here. But I want to show you something. You can add, just like anything else, add any kind of your adjustment layers. I'm going to add, in this case, a levels adjustment layer. I'm not going to do anything fancy, but on my screen, everything's real dark. I got a lot of contrast stuff. I'm just going to hit auto right here. And it'll process it. It's a little over-processed on this screen, but on my monitor, it looks real crispy, real clean, real nice. It's opened up the shadows a lot. It's given me really what I want. So that's great. So that's an easy way. Instead of having to do each and every single one of those pictures individually, or even in Lightroom where you have to do the one, get it just right, and then copy and paste and apply all those effects to everything else, this is even quicker, right? So especially if you're going to video. So it's a great way to just go ahead, add something. And again, you can make adjustments later because it's on an adjustment layer. You can make later on, you can make some other adjustments, turn it on, turn it off, whatever you want. So if we just scan through this one plays a lot slower because it is a much, much bigger file. Remember, we have now created from these stills a larger than 4K video file. But here's what I want to show you that you can do. You're like, well, Rod, that's great. I'll export that out. But how can I, make some extra money with these clips on Adobe stock? You can actually then go ahead and change your canvas size to 1920 by 1080 HD, and then move that around and just select certain areas to actually have a whole new clip that's not the whole falls. Let me show you what that looks like and why that works. So under the image menu, I'm going to go down to canvas size. So image menu to canvas size. And I'm going to change this to pixels. And here, I'm going to go ahead and change this 1920 for the width and 1080 for the height. I'll give just a second, everybody catch up. 1920 by 1080. It is going to give you a warning as soon as you click OK. Oh my gosh, the new canvas size is smaller than the current canvas size. Some clipping will occur. That's fine. We're good with that. Hit proceed. But now watch what I can do. I'm going to go up, and we've had the brush size, so don't use the brush tool. We've had the brush tool. Let's go up here. Let's grab the move tool. But watch what I can do. I can move this massive video file, corner just a certain section, Let me go ahead and zoom in on that a little bit so you can kind of see that a little bit better. Oh, too big, but bring that back down. Let me make that so that fits a little better on screen for you. There we go. And so now you could export just a clip that just shows the clouds coming in with a little bit of the top of a waterfall. That can be one of your clips right there, right? Move it around. All right. Next clip. Because when you go to export this, you're exporting out at this size, right? So let's do, say, more centered like that. Go on through. And again, for those of you that are just joining us, how would you export this out? File menu, export, all the way down here to render video. And now you're exporting out, look at it, 1920 by 1080. So you can go ahead and from a single time going out, shooting one time, you can actually then go ahead and select and actually have 10, 15, 20 clips that are different locations, different sizes, showing different aspects of stock footage. I mean, this is great stuff. You can also, if you look down here, this is a complete different scene. If I go all the way down here to the bottom, again, this is full HD now. We got a full HD. I've got a nice little lagoon with a waterfall. Let's play that through. I may have a dead body floating there, I'm not sure. You saw that? Oh, dead body. They pay extra for that on Adobe stock. It's a good thing. All right. You can sharpen. Again, we're a little washed out up here on the projection screen, but you can sharpen it up. You can do all the things that you know how to do to your photographs. You can do it to this video. It treats it all just like a Photoshop, but it's video. And that's the beauty. Now you're going to say, well, Rod, how much space do I really have to work with here? So let me just do this. You don't have to do this. This is just for me to show you. I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to do Command T. That's just for Control T. That's like I'm trying to transform the video layer. I'm not really going to. I just want to show you how big that video file is as compared to our 1080 HD window right there. All right? So you can move things around. Not only that, then you could also rescale some of it, right? So you could hold down, bring it down, scale it down, get a slightly different focus on something, lock that in. Get a little different view, right? Real nice. And you can export these out and keep selling these as stock clips. So it's a great, ingenious way. Did everybody, any questions? Because I'm kind of doing a lot of time-lapse stuff there. Yeah, hit me with a question. So the question is, does it add any compression, outputs full res? Any compression or stuff depends on the codec that you save to. That's when you'll get that. So obviously H.264 is going to add some compression. But if you choose, one of the other codecs that is a lossless one or that just has a higher quality look to it, and you can choose all that. And again, Photoshop doesn't install any of these codecs or do any of that kind of stuff. It's whatever's already on your system. So let me give you an example. You're on an Avid system. You had a big Avid media system, and you're using a Avid hardware codec, which means that the video codec is attached to the hardware that is actually built into the computer, like a PCI card, that kind of thing. You can choose that. You can go right to that and save that out to that codec, and then place it right in your timeline and that kind of thing. But again, most of us are now using Premiere. Premiere can take anything and it sees it right away. It's awesome as a Premiere. And so you can pretty much save this out as anything. And guys, you would be amazed at the things. I used to really, 10 years ago, my worry was about quality and like, oh my gosh, is this going to be to engineering specs if it goes to broadcast? So much goes to the web now. And obviously, when we're on our phones, everybody's got a different phone. Everything's got a different gamut and a different color and a different thing like that. You get it as you look as nice as you can, but in the end, you can't, really how somebody's looking at that. They're looking at it in the sun or they're looking at it in the shade. It's all going to change how that looks. So don't worry about as much, I think, as all those video guys used to in the day. I backed off a little bit on it, and I just try to get it looking as nice as I can on my nice calibrated monitor, on my nice system at home, and then I export it out and send it to the clients, and I don't have any complaints. And I will use a lot of different stock. Like a lot of times clients give me stuff and like, hey, this is shot, and this is gorgeous, and this is 4K, and this, we can't find the original version of it, so it's a web version that we save down off of YouTube of our, such and such clip. mix them. And you can do that in Premiere. That's the beauty. Again, there are some techniques and some stuff, and I teach in some of my Premiere classes where you can sharpen the video a little bit. You can add some little things. Sometimes you need to do a little Gaussian blur to make it kind of mesh really well, with high quality and low quality. But mixing that all on the timeline is one of the honestly advantages of Premiere Pro. Okay, we're down. We've got just a few more minutes left. I'm going to take some questions. I want to show you something that is just really, really cool. All right. Now this is one that if you're not really into if you're not really versed in Photoshop, you may just want to just watch me do it instead of trying to follow along. It can get a little bit complicated, but we're going to do something very, very different. For those of you who want to follow along, File menu to open. Let's go back to my folder. There's a thing in there called Lab Color Mode Selection Trick. Double click on that. There's two things. There's an actual PSD file. Sometimes new versions of Photoshop and things, I keep this because sometimes things don't work right in this trick, like something crashes or something like that. So I keep that as like my emergency. But I'm just going to bring in, I want you just to bring in the thing that's called truck color. We're just going to bring that in. So double click on that, bring that in. And I'm going to play this. And you're going to see it is just a nice old red truck sitting in a field and a nice panning shot. That's all it is. Red truck sitting in a field, panning shot. Now here's the thing, you get a client and they go, you know what, Rod, that's perfect, that's the video we want, but we need to have a green truck. It needs to be a different color. That's not, we can't have red. And you go, oh, okay, great. Well, listen, that's gonna take rotoscoping right there. I gotta go into After Effects, gotta do a lot of rotoscoping, there's a lot of stuff. We got a lot of red, we gotta select all these different things out here. We gotta select inside of the wheel well. Honestly, there's a little tint, there's a little, that red is kind of reflecting up into the tint in the glass. We have to work on that. Guys, it's gonna be a lot of work. I mean, woo! So as long as you got the budget for it, I'm the man. I'm the man, I'm your guy if you got the budget for it. And then I will go into Photoshop. I won't go into After Effects at all. I won't do any rotoscoping, not a bit. I'm not even gonna select. You're gonna say, Rod, how are you gonna change the color of this moving video, not a still, moving video file and not make a selection? Because I'm a magician. That's how. No, I'm literally going to go ahead and without any selection, I'm going to use something that we never use in Photoshop. Most people, everybody's video guys are using RGB, web guys a lot of times RGB, print guys are using CMYK. I'm gonna use something called the LAB color mode. And you're gonna be like, never heard of it. It's there, I promise. But here's what you gotta do with video. Because this trick does not work because see how it brings it in as a video group? This trick does not work if it's in a video group. You gotta bring it and make it work like it's just a regular Photoshop photograph layer, not a video. So we're gonna pull it out of the video group. So you just grab it, pull it up there real quick, and so you'll have it like this, so that it's on top of the video group folder, and then, really important, you actually have to delete the video group. You gotta delete it off of the thing, or this trick will not work. You gotta make it so that it does not think it's video. It is a file, it's still a video file, but it's not in a video group, and you're just kind of treating it like a photo. Now here's what we're gonna do. Now, I'm gonna go up under the image menu, go to my modes, and I'm gonna go to LAB color mode. All right, now LAB color mode, it's hard to explain, but it basically means lightness A and B channel. I'm not gonna go into a lot of explanation about it because this is really not about teaching LAB color mode, but it's really more about teaching that what you can do with LAB color mode is you can actually assign a color a different color. I can change what it is. I can redefine it. I can say blue is not blue anymore, blue is yellow. I can say red is not red anymore, red is green. And here's how I do that. I'm gonna add a curves adjustment layer. First thing, curves adjustment layer. Then up here in my little palette, you see I've got lightness, A and B. I'm gonna choose A mode. And again, this is advanced, so those of you not advanced guys, just sit and watch. I'm gonna lock down the center of it. I'm gonna lock it down. Just trust me, I'm locking down the center. And I am going to pull down on this side and watch that, watch that. Oh wait, I was red, now I'm kind of a brownie. Little taupey, little light green, let's pull it in. Oh, look at that, nice bright green. And here's the deal, it's still video. I have changed that color from red to green. Did I make a single selection? No. Not at all. I've even looked in the windows. Got that nice little green tinty. I basically redefined what that color is, right? Redefined it. All right, now that's cool, right? So there's our video. So we've done something cool. And again, haven't destroyed it. I turn off the layer, the adjustment layer, still red. All right, still red. Turn it back on, green. All right, now let's do the real wizardry, all right? Let's do something even cooler. So we were talking about earlier, let me pull this back up. We do have keyframes. I haven't even keyframed anything yet, but let's keyframe something, right? So I like the green. Let me go ahead and set this timeline marker right about there. Turn this thing down. My opacity, I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe for that. Now here's what that means. It means that right now my opacity is green. Now here's what I'm doing. What am I doing? Am I changing the color red to green? Am I doing? No. Curves is my adjustment layer. Curves is the thing that's saying it's green. The thing underneath it is red, right? I'm just going to say basically just I want you to go ahead and just kind of fade in from red to green. You would think that what it's going to do is just kind of do a nice little dissolve from red to green. But because we're using curves, I'm going to go over here to the beginning. I'm at the beginning of my timeline. I'm going to take this opacity down to 0, and you'll see how now it's red. But because we're using curves, as it goes along and it moves, it's actually going to go through that entire color spectrum. Is that not cool? Huh? That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's why I'm a wizard. All right, here we go. Look at that. Red goes into little orange, little green. Look at that. And it goes right into it. And again, we haven't destroyed anything. And look, I got 2 layers. 2 layers. My original video layer and then a curves adjustment layer. And again, all we did was put it in LAB color mode. So, guys, that is my time. What questions do I have? Any questions I can answer about any of this? Okay, somebody's going to always say, well, Rod, what about other colors and that kind of thing? I can just go ahead and tell you, there's a little more magic to this than there is like science, and it's kind of hard to figure out sometimes. So let me go back to this curves thing. A does really good with reds and greens. Your B is kind of your yellows and your blues. And then in there, when you lock things down, is everything kind of in between. Is there a magic thing? I can say punch this in and punch this out. There isn't. You got to kind of play around and tweak it, but you can kind of work. The other beauty is that notice that because I was really focusing in on just that bright red, if you see back there, let me see if I can zoom in for you. Hold on. Those little, what are those, daisies? What are those things called? Sunflower? I don't know what those things are. Sunflower. So those are still that same reddish, that kind of off red, rusty color. We haven't affected those in the least. That's kind of cool. All right, and we can go all the way. Greens, reds, they don't really change color. Again, guys, thanks for coming to the Dell FMC campus. There's more training. I think, Paul, you want to come up and tell us a little bit, but I think there's some more training coming up.
Greenberg coming up here to talk about Windows for Creatives. It's not a hands-on session, the next one, but the rest of the sessions throughout the day will be. Yeah, you can come and join us. These are all free sessions we've got going out throughout the day until about 4 p.m. today, and top of the hour usually for all the sessions. But come check out all the awesome gear that we have here on display from Dell. This is the Dell FMC campus, yeah, we're really happy to have you out. And thanks, Rod, for teaching us a lot about Photoshop TNT.
All right, guys. Thank you, everybody who's streaming live. We appreciate you guys being here.